1500 प्रीलोडेड गानों वाला कीपैड फोन धमाकेदार साउंड के साथ कारवा मोबाइल।
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. In the previous chapter, Lord Krishna described Arjuna in verse number 39 two paths of self-realization, Sankhya and Buddhi Yoga, which is also known as Karma Yoga. But there was some confusion on the part of Arjuna. The confusion was not deliberate, but it is natural when any subject matter is new. The student is expected to put some questions. Because this knowledge should not be kept just in books, it has to be applied, and Arjuna, being a sincere student, wishes to have a clear understanding so that he can practically apply in his life. So let us see what Arjuna asks and how Krishna clarifies his doubt. This session is dedicated to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our spiritual master and the founder and acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. Arjuna said, O Janardhan, O Keshava, why do you urge me to engage in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? As we have seen in the last chapter, Lord Krishna has completely denounced, criticized the tendency of fruitive work. Fruitive work means expecting to enjoy the results of one's activities. And Arjuna was shown the path of Buddhi Yoga to become free from the bondage of work. Now Arjuna is asking a common question which comes in mind of many neophyte spiritualists who have just taken to spiritual life. And people ask and they assume, okay, spiritual life means giving up all the duties, all the responsibilities, and just keeping ourselves in a secluded place and retiring, chanting Hare Krishna maybe 24 hours in some jungle or on some mountain. This is the understanding of spiritual life. But here, Lord Krishna wants to make it very clear that the actions of a spiritualist and a materialist can be very much same. Externally, a person may not be even able to make out that he is a spiritualist or a materialist. But there is a huge difference in consciousness. So that is why this process is called Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of intelligence. The senses can act in the same way. Arjuna was a fighter before, Arjuna was a fighter afterwards, after hearing Bhagavad Geeta also. But what changed was consciousness. So here Arjuna is asking, Krishna, you tell Krishna consciousness is the path, Buddhi Yoga is the path. So just let me retire from my duties. Why then you again tell me that you please engage in work? Let us see what Krishna answers. Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vad nischitya yena shreyo hamapnuyam. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively what is most beneficial for me. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The blessed Lord said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who realize the self. Some are inclined to understand him by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others are inclined to know him by devotional work. So here Krishna is explaining clearly the two paths. One set of spiritualists, they are called the Sankhya Yogis or the Jnana Yogis. They renounce the duties given by the Varnashrama institution. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanprasth and Sannyas. These are four social and spiritual divisions of Varnashrama institution. In this institution, as per the psychophysical situation of a person, certain duties are assigned so that person can gradually move from tamasic mode to sattvic nature and eventually become a self-realized person and stop the process of repetition of birth and death. This is the sum and substance of all the duties, ultimately to make him Krishna conscious. But there are some people who renounce all these duties. They just want to understand Krishna by philosophical analysis. That is called the path of Sankhya or Jnana Yoga. Whereas others, they are also spiritualists, but they want to understand God by the process of work. They are called Karma Yogis. So both the yogas are very important and they are interdependent. That is why we will see Krishna will explain. Immature people, those who are not wise, they think it is different. They both are interdependent, as is religion and philosophy. Some people, they simply philosophize without any understanding of religion. That is simply mental speculation. That will not lead us to end result. Our brain is too tiny to understand anything about the absolute truth without the help of religious scriptures, the instructions given by God. On the other hand, there are some people who simply get stuck in the rituals without understanding any philosophy and they become fanatics. So that class also we have seen. There are religious people who are fanatic without any philosophy. And there are some people who are simply philosophizing, trying to understand what is truth without understanding from God what is truth. They want to understand God without explanation of God. So both the cases, the person is not able to understand absolute truths. So there should be religion. Religion means instructions given by God. We have to purify our brain intelligence so that we can understand God. And philosophy is very much required for. So spiritual life is not a sentimental process. It is a scientific understanding of absolute truth. But if there is only philosophy without religion, again it is a failure. So Sankhya and Karma Yoga both go hand in hand. Na karmanam anarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnute na cha sannyasana deva siddhim samadhi gacchati. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Arjuna was willing to renounce. So yes, this renunciation of duties is also recommended. Sannyas is recommended, but for a person who is very advanced and who is self-satisfied. Unless the heart is very much cleansed by the performance of prescribed duties, artificially, just like a person who is very much addicted to drugs. In rehabilitation centers, he is given small doses so that gradually he can give up. Immediately, it is not possible to give up. So that is why for general people, it is not recommended that they renounce the duties immediately. So when the heart is purified by proper discharge of duties, then renunciation is allowed. But prematurely, Krishna is telling, simply if a person is renounced, he takes sannyas, he wears the dress of a sannyasi. It does not mean his consciousness is that of a sannyasi and he will have a nasty fall down. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krit karyate hi avashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunay. All men are forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of material nature. Therefore, No one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So, very important word used here is karyate hi avashah karma. Avasha means helpless. So Arjuna is being warned by Krishna, now you are telling I do not want to fight, but you have got body of a Kshatriya. So helplessly you will engage in fighting. But now if you fight according to my instructions, your life would be glorious. You will become free from the bondage of work. Later if you fight according to your own whims, you will end up getting more entangled. So avasha word is very important. Krishna is telling, Jatu tishthati akarmakrit. Without doing any work, nahi kashchit kshanamapi. Even for a moment, nobody is allowed not to do any work. Everybody is avashaha, helplessly being dragged by the forces of nature. Nature gives us the body, and through this body, nature controls us. Force is there of belly, and thus we are forced to go out and take up some duty, job or business. And we are forced to work hard to fulfill the demands of belly. Grow food or earn money to have food. Then there is force of genitals. So one is forced to have a partner, and then one is forced to work to maintain the partner, and then further extensions of the family. Then there is force of mind. Mind wants name, fame, and for this again a person is put to hard work, certain kind of work. Then a person gets tired, body forces one to go to sleep. In this way the body is continuously forcing us. So a person is helpless. A moth helplessly is driven towards fire. A deer helplessly is driven towards music, and then the hunter catches the deer, loses its life. In this way we are helpless. Nature is forcing us to clean ourselves, to dress ourselves, to work harder, to eat, to sleep. So we are completely helpless, and we feel this helplessness in our lives. So in order to become free from this helplessness, we need to take instructions from Bhagavad Gita. But now Krishna is telling Arjuna, so please understand, nature forces one to do certain duties. Now you may decline, I do not want to eat. After some time, hunger would be very strong and you will be forced to eat. In a similar fashion, please do not try to skip your duties immediately as long as you are driven by the forces of this body. Karmendriyani sanyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimodhatma mithyacharasa uchyate. One who restrains the senses and organs of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So Arjuna, you may take sannyas, but then your mind will always be dwelling upon sense enjoyment. So such a person is not called a sannyasi, renouncer of duties, but a pretender, although he can be in dress of a sannyasi. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamya rabhate Arjuna karmendriya karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. On the other hand, he who controls the senses by the mind and engages his active organs in work of devotion without attachment is by far superior. So one has to work, but work without attachment. That is why even a householder's life is called ashrama, grahast ashram. Ashram means where spirituality is in center, Krishna consciousness is in center. So without attachment, even a person is householder. Here Krishna is telling he is much superior, much better than a pretender sannyasi. So it is told sannyas ashram is so strict. If a lusty thought is entertained by a sannyasi, the injunction is he should leave his body. The body becomes so contaminated. So sannyas ashram is so strict, you do not have right to live with a contaminated consciousness. Thus these things are prohibited in Kali Yuga. Kalau pancha vivarjayet. So it is not that some people, shastras were meant for old ages. Now it is 21st century, we have to change the rules. No. The Shastras recommend different rules for different millenniums and centuries. That is why the Dhyan Yoga, which was recommended for Sat Yoga, it is not recommended now. The sacrifices, the special kind of sacrifice, Dravya Yajna, which was meant for Treta Yoga, is not recommended now. The deity worship for self-realization, which was for Dwapar Yoga, Pancharatra istu kevalaya. In Kali Yuga, Kalautu Nama Matrena, chanting the holy names of the god, is a recommended yajna or the process. So thus, the Shastras give the wisdom for different ages, and thus they are always applicable. We need to understand what is a recommendation for this age. So thus, in this age, it is told one should not take sannyas. Every respectable person was expected to take sannyas. Go to jungle at 50 years. Pancha shodhvam vanam vrajet. Vrajet means one must go vidhiling. But now, there is no brahmacharya training. Without brahmacharya training, sannyas, if a person takes, then a person may become a pretender. So now also, if a person is very much advanced and qualified, they can take, but it is not allowed for general people. Just like now, if somebody doesn't take education, it is not acceptable. Similarly, some respectable person not taking sannyas was not acceptable at all in previous ages. But in Kali Yuga, for general people, it is told you remain engage in your duties wherever you are, but work without attachment in the spirit of devotion. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hyakarmanaha sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanaha. Perform your prescribed duty, for action is better than inaction. A man cannot even maintain his physical body without work. Yagyarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain unattached and free from bondage. So the point to be noted here is Krishna is not recommending ordinary passionate kind of work. As people tell, work is worship. Just do your duty very nicely. You need not spend time in reading the Vedas, understanding science of God, and getting too much into it. Just do your duty nicely. Work is worship when the injunctions of Krishna are followed. And what is the injunction? Yajna arthat. When a person does work, sacrificing the results for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu or Krishna, then work is worship. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Person gets bound up in the karmic activities. So yajna means sacrifice. Sacrifice for whom? Yajna vai Vishnu. The scriptures tell another name of yajna, another meaning of yajna is Vishnu. And Lord Krishna further he will explain that do all the works, sacrifice everything only for my pleasure. For those people who do not have knowledge that all the yajnas are meant for ultimate satisfaction of Vishnu, they are recommended to do sacrifice for other devatas also. But if a person is wise, he should understand. This is there mentioned throughout the Vedic literatures. People sometimes they do the duties very nicely. Oh yes, I am a very religious person. I go to temple. I do all the sanskaras. We did Garbhadan sanskar. Then we did Namkaran, Jatkarn sanskar, Upanayan sanskar. We are very religious now. It is told in the Vedas. Ata pumbir dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagashaha swanushthitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Haritoshanam, the pleasure of Hari, is the purpose of swanushthitasya dharmasya. Perfection of one's duty. Are we able to please Hari? Dharmaswanushtita punsam vishwaksena kathasu yaha notpaded ratim yadi shram evhi kevalam. Shram ev means it is useless endeavor. If Vasudev Katha Ruchi, the taste for hearing the signs of God has not awakened, then the purpose of doing duties is not solved, is not served. So this is the purpose of all the duties. Haritoshanam, samsiddhir haritoshanam, perfection of one's duty, samsiddhi, that is called, siddhi means perfection, samsiddhi means ultimate perfection. If a person does his duty very perfectly, then the result would be pleasure of Hari. It is for him, everything is happening here. So by doing our duties very nicely, if we follow the Vedic injunctions, automatically a person should become very inclined. One should develop great taste to hear the message and the signs of Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it is not happening, Shram Evhi Kevalam. So Krishna is telling Yagya Arthat, only for the purpose of sacrifice. If you understand who is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices, that Krishna will declare, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Like in a factory, who is the ultimate beneficiary? The proprietor. So Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, I am the ultimate beneficiary, enjoyer of all tapasya that anybody does and all the sacrifices. It is being offered to any demigod, but ultimately I am the ultimate beneficiary. Why? Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, because I am the supreme proprietor. But it is not easy to have understanding of God in the lower modes of nature, because we are having various material desires. So as per the capacity of the individuals, whatever modes they are being conducted by, various other sacrifices are recommended in the Vedas. And if one follows this path of sacrifice, one will become free from the bondage of karma, sinful activity. If a person is very, very tamasic, for them also there is yagya. If I want to eat meat, I cannot maintain a slaughterhouse, because ultimately the Vedas want to make a person very sattvic. So there is injunction, you offer sacrifice to goddess Kali, ghastly form of material nature. So one can do such sacrifice outside the city, and he can do only on Amavas. So in that way, there is regulation. Everyday person is not eating meat. And then if he follows this sacrifice, gradually the meat eating tendency, this violent tendency will be eliminated from the heart. So for Rajasic person who want wealth, heroic power, who want to defeat their enemies, different yagyas for different demigods are recommended. Sahayagya praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam eshavostvishta kamadhuk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you all desirable things. Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah param avapsyatha. The demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, thus nourishing one another, there will reign general prosperity for all. Unfortunately, people sometimes call such descriptions in the Vedic literatures of devatas, demigods, very powerful living entities having supernatural powers living on other planets in this universe as mythology. However, the Vedas never mentioned it mythology. Jivasya tattva jigyasa nartho yascheha karmabhi. This is the motto of all Vedic education. We are engaged in various activities you can do, sir. You can do business, job, or any menial service, or you can be a king or politician. But karmabhi, of all the actions, what is the purpose? The purpose is not simply enjoyment of senses like animals, but the purpose is tattva jigyasa, to understand what is the truth of this life. Who has created this world? What is the purpose? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? When we suffer, we go to doctor. In a similar fashion, we should have this question: why am I suffering? Something is unnatural. I am doing which I am not supposed to do. So human life is meant for such inquiry. All the actions which we are doing, the result is that with jigyasa one should inquire truth. So such professors of the Vedic culture who were sages, they have approved this knowledge as being absolute truth. If we want to understand computers, we go to Faculty of Computer Science. If we want to understand automobiles, we go to Faculty of Mechanical Engineering. Similarly, if you want to understand what is truth of life, we should go to Faculty of Truth Department. And this truth department you'll find only in the Vedic culture. In Vedic culture, all education is meant only for knowing truth. That is why all the pass outs of Vedic schools called Gurukul, they would never take up jobs. Because a person needs to be independent first of all in order to understand truth. So only those people who did not go to Vedic schools, Gurukuls, they would take up jobs. Otherwise, jobs were never taken by any educated person in the Vedic culture. They would remain free. Either they would cultivate their own farms, work 3 months in a year, and balance time they would cultivate Krishna consciousness, or they are Kshatriyas, they collect tax and give protection to people. They are also not dependent on money for somebody, or they are Brahmanas. He is satisfied simply by maintaining, keeping his body and soul together. Somebody gives more donation, he will distribute it. He doesn't want to even accumulate money for next day. Such exalted culture. So such people, such great sages have approved this is truth, faculty of truth. So just like we have not seen neutrons, we have not seen electrons, we have not seen protons, we have not seen the black holes. And we might die without seeing them, but we believe in them. Yes, proton, neutron, electron, quarks, so many subatomic particles, they exist. Black holes do exist. We might not be able to see. Electromagnetic waves do exist. In a similar fashion, just like we are depending on some authorities to believe on things we cannot perceive directly, here also we depend on such authorities. And it is not difficult to understand the existence of demigods. You see, this is a wonderful machine. Now this session is being recorded on a camera. These eyes are more advanced than most advanced camera that we have made till now. How the image comes, it falls on the retina. The curvature is so perfect. The curvature could have been distorted from birth. There could be some deficiency. Of course, some very sinful people, they have this thing. But normally for most of us, the curvature is just right that the image falls on the retina. How did the atoms decide that we adjust in this way that the curvature should be focused on the retina? And then there is mechanism to control the intensity of light. There are sufficient proportion, the exact nice ratio of rods and cones which define our perception of colors. If it changes, we become colorblind. In every living entity, the right amount of rods and cones, the ability to distinguish colors is present. Then there are optical nerves, just like in camera. How the recording, it is able to be converted into electrical signals. And then these electrical signals are transmitted. So there is proper mechanism, wiring in the brain. Who has done this wiring? And then the image which is formed, that is inverted. There is optical nerve which inverts that image again, so that we can see the world right side up, not upside down. So who created this very nice optical nerve which inverts the image in the exact degree, 180 degree? Is it not a wonderful mechanism? Then it goes to spine, from spine it goes to brain. What wonderful machine it is. This is just eye. And there is so much wonderful mechanism happening in this body. Food that we eat, it goes, calcium will be taken out, will be sent to the bones, vitamins will be taken out, will be sent to the respective organs wherever it is required. The waste will be collected, it will be excreted. How nicely it is happening. Air comes, we need only oxygen, oxygen is taken, other gases not required are eliminated. How nice mechanism it is. So there is somebody who has designed, is it not? So that is a fact. It is done by a demigod. His name is Brahma. He has designed all our bodies. And Brahma also has been created by somebody. Brahma's body has been designed by somebody. That is Lord Krishna, that the Vedas define. So in this way, just like in any establishment, there is one king and there are so many ministers, or prime minister, under him so many ministers. In a similar fashion, there is one supreme personality who is called God. Under him, there are other ministers of universal affairs. They are called demigods. Why is it difficult to understand? Somebody has created all these machines, isn't it? The right chemicals, right? How nice design it is. Chanakya Pandit says, when I see just this mechanism, as soon as the child is out, there is milk in the breasts of the mother. Not before that, not after the child is grown up. Because the child cannot survive on anything other than milk. And the milk comes out at the right time. And it has all the nutrients required for the child, and child cannot survive on anything else than the milk. How nice is this mechanism? So there are people who are doing it, and there is somebody who is controlling all such people who are doing this thing. He is called Supreme Lord, and those people who are directly responsible for such activities. Just like now in a city, there is water supply, there is power supply. Similarly, please do not think it is happening by chance. The rains, the water, the air, the food that we have, everything is in control of demigods. It is mentioned in the scriptures. Now our science does not allow us. Otherwise, we could have gone and practically seen. But now we cannot go, so we take help of authorities. And these authorities are not ordinary. They are very powerful. They have dedicated their lives to find truth. And these authorities reject general perception that we have, calling it as illusion. So will they believe and propound some mythology? No. So I request, let us try to with great deliberation, with diligence, read the Vedas, and we also will be convinced that this is fact. God is fact, the supreme creator, demigods are also fact. So here Krishna is telling, the demigods being pleased by the sacrifice will also please you, and thus nourishing one another, there will reign general prosperity for all. As we give tax to the government maintains all these departments very nicely, and the facilities are given to us. We have nice transport, nice education, and all the public facilities, defense, healthcare is done by the government. If we don't give tax, then again we will not be taken care properly and we will suffer eventually. If we give tax, we are given proper care, we earn more money, we give more tax, there is general prosperity for all. Similar cycle happens here in the universe also. So a person is supposed to do yajna. By yajna, demigods are pleased, they are nourished, and they nourish us. In this way, mutually, the demigods and the living entities, by following this chakra, this cycle of yajna, for everybody there is prosperity. This science is not known to people. Ishtan bhogan hi vo deva dasyante yajna bhavitah tair dattan apradayebhyo yo bhunkte stena eva saha. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, supply all necessities to man. But he who enjoys these gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. A person does not give tax, he is called a thief. And can a thief be happy? No. So a thief could be less intelligent, or a thief could be technologically very advanced. He has nice weapons with himself, he has night jammers, he has all the nice technology, with that he is robbing a bank. Or a person without technology stealing, both are called thieves and both will be punished. In a similar fashion, people wonder sometimes what is lacking in society. We are having more and more researches every day, the institutions are getting more and more funds, we are advancing in our so-called technology, but still the suffering is also increasing. Because we are not doing yajna. Apart from self-realization, even for material prosperity, we understand giving tax is required. So because we are not doing yajna, Krishna is telling Sten eva saha, he is a thief. So simply by advancing in technology and science, but remaining a thief, not doing yajna, sufferings will not go away. And the proof is, we are seeing, there is so much analysis in the world, how the stress is always building up. And the natural resources, they are getting depleted. The West US, 40% of it is very badly drought struck. They are trying cloud seeding, so many things, but Even though theoretically we have such measures, nobody has been successful in doing cloud seeding. It is not possible. So here we will see next Krishna mentions how these yajnas are very important. The rains happen because of yajna. Because of rains we have food grains, and then there would be no scarcity. If we don't do yajna, most advanced cities, water table is going down, natural resources are getting depleted. This will happen. So we have to become an honest man, do yajna, do sacrifice. And there are some very nice side benefits also of such yajnas. What is that? Yajna shishta shina santo muchyante sarvakil vishay bhunjante te tvagham papa ye pachantyatma karanat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. This also we do not know. So many basic things, unfortunately, we do not know, which was part of the culture. Yajna shishtashina santaha. Santaha means saintly people. What kind of food do they eat? Yajna shishta, the remnants of yajna. And why do they do that? Muchyante sarvakil vishay. We suffer only because of sins. We have to understand. Please, this is very important. It is ignorance if we think because of bad government I am suffering, because of bad neighbors I am suffering, because of bad family members I am suffering, bad life partner, bad boss, bad subordinate, bad weather. No, sir. We are suffering because we have broken laws of nature. These are merely instruments of our suffering. That is why a person should be desperate to know what are the laws so that I don't break them further and continue or expand my suffering. And I should be eager to get rid of the reactions which have accumulated because of past sinful activities. And how to do it? This is the way. Yajna shishta shina santa. By eating yajna shishta, remnants of yajna shishta, food which is offered in yajna or offered to Lord Krishna. Yajna is one of the names of Lord Krishna. So directly either we offer to Krishna and then we take the food, or we do yajna, which was being done in Treta Yuga, like that. We get freedom from the sinful reactions. Just imagine, person becomes free from sinful reaction, he becomes happy just by eating the food. That is why it was culture in the country that nobody would take food without offering it first to Lord Krishna in the temple. Every Brahmana, he would have a Shaligram Shila to worship. Shaligram Shila is another incarnation of Lord Krishna. And the food would be offered first to Shaligram Shila, and then if he is worshipping some other devatas, they would be given prasadam, which is offered to Shaligram Shila. Then it would be distributed to general people, everybody. And if we do not do that, the advantage is if we do that, we are freed from the sinful reaction. Bhunjante te tvagham papa ye pachanti atma karanat. Atma karanat, if a person cooks food for one's own pleasure, gratification, agham pap, he is not just doing pap, sinful activity. Agham pap means very greatly, verily he is eating only sin, Krishna is mentioning. Because if you cultivate food, first of all, tilling the field, plowing, you kill so many microorganisms or germs, insects. So killing is killing. Soul is same, either in small body or big body. Whether you smashed a person who was walking on road or who was riding a big vehicle, the act of killing remains the same, punishment remains the same. So some soul is there in small body or in big body. If killing is happening, the nature is automated to bring suffering to us in the next life, and we will be killed. And then after that, sometimes there is death because you are uprooting the plant completely. The plant dies. The plants and vegetables also have life. If their death happens, then that is also killing. And when you grind the grains, again so many small living entities get smashed. When we cook in flame of the fire, so many living entities die again. When we eat, when we chew, when we drink water, so many small living entities again die. There is a lot of death involved in the process of cultivating, harvesting and cooking and eating food. And we are responsible for all such deaths if we do not offer food in yajna to Lord Krishna. When we offer food to Lord Krishna, then the food becomes purified of all contamination. Just like the government told, whatever money you have accumulated, you declare your assets and then you submit it to the government, and then you will not be punished for that. In a similar fashion, just a crude example we are discussing here, if you offer the food to Krishna, it becomes purified. Why it becomes purified? Because the living entity anyway has to die. But if all those living entities who died in this process of food, and that food is offered to Krishna, their life becomes a sacrifice in the service of Krishna. So they would have followed the gradual process of evolution from insects to bigger insect, then to reptile, then to birds, beasts, and gradually human being after many, many lifetimes. But because now their life has become sacrifice for Krishna, because that food has been offered to Krishna, they immediately get promoted to a human form of life. This is a great science. Thus that food becomes purified. It becomes a benevolent activity for all the species involved. And when a person takes that purified food, he is freed from all sins. Now everybody cooks for their own self, or worse, we are getting the food which is cooked from some other person. So we do not know that when we cook food, our consciousness mixes with the food. So if we get food cooked from a person who is having very low consciousness, no proper character, no regulation in habits, very angry, lusty, we will also get anger and lust automatically. These things are not known to people, and they tell why my mind is disturbed, why this thing is happening. The food you are eating, it is being cooked by whom? First of all, it is not offered, and it is being cooked by a person who is having very low degraded consciousness. What will happen to us? So all these basic things are not known to us. Then who can stop our suffering? First of all, we don't do yajna, we don't offer. There is no understanding that I am suffering because of sinful reactions. So thus it is very imperative we read, we have a systematic understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhavaha. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. So food grains happen because of rains, and the rains happen because of yajna. Thus, because we are reducing yajna, it is told in the Vedas, the rains would be very, very scarce in the days which are going to come in Kali Yuga, especially towards the end of Kali Yuga. So it is not by chance. Nature is providing everything under very stringent laws. And yajna is born of prescribed duty. If you don't do your duty, where is the question of sacrifice? Sacrificing the results. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasma sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratishtitam. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmakshara samudbhavam. Consequently, all pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So very important word used here is Brahmakshara samudbhavam. The Vedas are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a version of Bhagavad Gita. In other places it is written Aparusheya. Vedas are not given by any human being. That is, it is perfect knowledge. Aparusheya, not by any Purush, any human being. Brahmakshara samudbhavam. They are manifest from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are the user manual for our life without any human frailties and imperfections. So even if a person wants to have materially comfortable life, having all the natural resources, we need to do yajna. But then how to do yajna would be the next question. Where to find qualified brahmanas? Finding a yajnik brahmana is very difficult. It is almost impossible in Kali Yuga. To find the ingredients for yajna, to have proper procedure, it's not possible. To do standard Vedic yajna, fire sacrifice. And every grahastha is supposed to do 5 kinds of yajna to avoid the reaction of so many inadvertent sinful activities that we do. While walking, talking, sleeping, regular activities, so many living entities are dying. And all those sins are getting accumulated. So how do we do this Pancha Yajna, 5 kinds of sacrifice in this Kali Yuga? Thus it is told, Yajna sankirtana prayar yajanti hi sumedasa. Doing yajna is very important. But as we were discussing, Vedas recommend practices as per time, place, circumstances, and capacity of the individual. As per your capacity, you follow. So now people are very degraded. It is told in Kali Yuga, Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Everybody Shudra. Shudra means untrained. It is not indicating any caste. Shudra means untrained person. Now everybody is untrained and who cries for small insignificant things. Everybody cries, gets distressed very easily. And Brahmana means who is not disturbed at all, even for death of his own self or his relatives or anybody else. He is not disturbed by the changes of body. He understands it is only a dress. Because of illusion, we are identifying ourselves with the body, just like a man crying because of a bad dream. So when everybody is Shudra in Kali Yuga, we have no capacity to do anything else. When we don't have proper Brahmanas, Yogic Brahmanas, another simple method is recommended. But please note, even though it is simple, it does not mean it is less effective. Rather, it is most effective. It more than compensates the deficiency of any good qualities of previous ages. But not everybody will be able to appreciate it. Thus Bhagavatam, the crux of all Vedas, recommends Yajna Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Sumedasa. The Supreme Person Yajanti will be worshipped by Medhasa means one who is intelligent. Sumedhasa means one who is very intelligent. So those people who are very bright, very intelligent, they will be able to understand the importance of Sankirtan. Sankirtan means chanting the names of God together. Bahubhir militva gayati iti sankirtana. So very simply, if we chant and hear the names of God, the glories of God and the signs of God, that is called Sankirtan. Discussion or singing about God. Name, signs, activities, qualities of God. So the intelligent people of Kali Yuga in this age are recommended to follow this Sankirtan Yajna. And the same results can be attained what people did by performance of Dhyan Yoga for thousands of years. Valmiki 60,000 years he did tapasya. Vishwamitra, father, mother of Krishna, did tapasya for 10,000 years. And like this, so many living entities, very advanced saints have done tremendous tapasya for thousands of years. Same result can be attained by Sankirtan in this age. So this is the process, very simple process recommended. If somebody follows Krishna consciousness, Sankirtan Yajna, then automatically all the material necessities, resources will be given, all the demigods will be pleased, and a person will make perfect spiritual advancement at the same time. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati hayaha aghayur indriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. My dear Arjuna, a man who does not follow this prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads a life of sin, for a person delighting only in the senses lives in vain. So Krishna is telling one who does not sacrifice the results of his activities for Krishna, who lives only to enjoy the senses, his life is waste, he lives in vain. And this is what most of us are doing today. But now here Krishna mentions an exception. So much Krishna has told you should do duty, sacrifice the results of the activity. But there is exception. What is that? Yastvatmaratireva syad atmatriptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. One who is, however, taking pleasure in the self, who is illumined in the self, who rejoices in and is satisfied with the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So one may ask, then who is supposed to renounce and just engage himself in the study of the Vedas? So here it is told, yes, there is a category of people who are Atmarati, who are completely satisfied. So such people, they can renounce the activities, their occupational duties, and they can read the Vedas, they can just chant Hare Krishna entire day, they can worship Krishna, and completely have a renounced order of life. But such a person should be Atmarati. It should not be simply the change of dress to get public attention, but a person should be self-satisfied. So two kinds of people are called self-satisfied or Atmaram. This word is used in Bhagavatam also. So one class is impersonalist, who just understand the concept of Brahma Jyoti. Brahma Jyoti is the spiritual effulgence which is coming out from the body of Krishna, as Krishna will declare in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratisthaham, that Brahma Jyoti is situated on me. Just like the sun and sunlight is non-different, similarly Krishna and the light coming from Krishna's body, there is no difference. They are one and the same unit, but still there is difference because the light is light and the personality is personality, the source of light. So those people who have just knowledge that the absolute truth is light, they don't have further knowledge that this light has got a source called the personality of Godhead, they are also Atmaram. They are Atmarati, they are self-satisfied. But this kind of self-satisfaction cannot continue eternally because by nature we are meant to enjoy loving relationship, activity in the service of Krishna. So a person can be very peaceful there for a very, very long time, but then we want the pleasure of relationship, pleasure of activities, and then a person falls down to material platform. There is another class of Atmarati who are devotees, who are always engaged in the service of Krishna. They are also self-satisfied, always relishing the pleasure of Krishna within the self, the relationship within the self. They also don't feel the pull of sense enjoyment because they are already completely satiated. So for both these people, there are no duties. So the Jnanis, the impersonalists, they study, they hear the Vedanta, whereas devotees, they do Sankirtan, they do meditation, they offer prayers. In this way, they completely engage themselves in the service of Krishna, giving up their occupational duties. For such people, it is not required. They can give up because what is the purpose of all the duties, perfection of duty that we have discussed? Sam siddhir haritoshanam, that is pleasure of Hari. So as a student who has graduated out of school, who is studying in college, he need not attend classes because he is graduated. Or sometimes students who are very wise, they are given promotion, they need not attend lower classes. So a person who is Atmarati, self-satisfied, for him there is no need of these subordinate duties. Naiva tasya kritenartho na kriteneha kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashrayah. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. A self-realized soul has no reason to perform the prescribed duties, and there is no reason not to do the duty. So what he is supposed to do? He can do anything as per the wish of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is what Lord Krishna is recommending now. Tasmadasakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme. So the Supreme is impersonal Brahma Jyoti for the impersonalists, and the Supreme is Supreme Personality of Godhead for the devotees, for the Buddhi Yogis or Bhakti Yogis. So in either case, if a person works without attachment, then one attains the Supreme, either the Brahma Jyoti or the association of Krishna in the Vaikuntha planets, or in Golok Vrindavan, the topmost of the Vaikuntha planet, where he lives personally with his associates. Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita janakadayaha loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartumarhasi. Even kings like Janak and others attained the perfectional stage by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So here Krishna is telling Arjun to perform his prescribed duty of fighting only. Why? Because he is quoting the instance of Janak Maharaj, father of Mother Sita, who was a self-realized soul, a pure devotee. Even though he was a self-realized soul, still he acted and fought many wars and did all the regulated prescribed duties of Varnashrama because, as Krishna will explain in the next shloka, please hear very carefully. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tat tat evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow in his footsteps. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So the world will pursue the leaders of the society. Yad yad acharati shreshtaha. And the best leader is the king himself. So if king is found not to be doing the duties of Varnashrama nicely, then all the ordinary people who are not self-realized, they may also leave their duties, thinking, oh, this is the right conduct. So that is why it is very, very important for Arjuna. Krishna is telling, because you are also leader, you are also king, the great general. People look up to you, so please do your duties very nicely, but asaktam, without any attachment, not for enjoying the results of the activities. न मे पार्थास्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किंचन नानवाप्तम् अवाप्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in work. Now Krishna is beginning to explain his position. Krishna is mentioned in the second chapter and in this chapter also to sacrifice the results. Now Krishna gradually will bring Arjuna to the point of directly giving instructions. Sacrifice the result for me. Why? What is my position? Here Krishna begins to explain, and more clearly Krishna will start explaining next chapter onwards. Here Krishna explains, Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana. In the three worlds there is no work prescribed for me, nor am I in want of anything. So it is said in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, in many Vedas, the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dehi dehi vibhedoyam neshvare vidyate kvachit. There is no difference between the Deha and Dehi. There is a difference. Our body Deha is different, and Dehi, we the dweller of the bodies, are different. But Ishvare, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, na vidyate kvachit, such difference does not exist. So for Krishna, there is no difference between Krishna's body and Krishna's soul. Some people tell, when Krishna tells surrender unto me, not to Krishna, to the soul within Krishna we have to surrender. No. This is ignorance. They don't know the Vedas. They don't know the science of God. Neshvare vidyate dehi deha vibheda. There is no difference between body, because we don't want this body which is full of diseases, death, old age and birth, all such troubles. So why God will take such a nasty body? So there is no need for him. His body is completely spiritual. Satchidananda Vigraha. Thus the Vedas tell, Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. God does not have material senses like us. He has got spiritual senses. Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti manti. Every sense can do the action of any other sense, because entire body is made up of substance called spirit. Krishna simply by seeing the food can taste the food. Krishna simply by breathing can speak the Vedas. So in this way, one limb can perform the action of any other limb. Simply by hearing the mantras for offering food, Krishna can eat food. So that is why it is told, Na tat samascha vyadhikascha drishyate. Thus there is nobody who is found equal to or superior to Krishna. Na tat samaha cha abhyadhikaha. There is no question of adhik being superior to Krishna. Nobody has such body that one limb can perform the action of any other limb. Parase Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. He has got multifarious potencies. All the energies of the world belong to him. Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. So we need to work hard to acquire Gyan, knowledge about certain thing. We need to work hard to get strength. We need to work hard to develop Kriya skills. But for Krishna it happens automatically. Simply by his wish, everything happens. So there is no reason for Krishna to do any work, because whatever he desires happens automatically by his energies. So thus Krishna is telling, there is no reason for me to engage in any kind of activity. Still Krishna does activity. Why? Yadi hyaham na varteyam jatu karmanyatandritaha mama vartamanu vartante manushyav partha sarvashaha. For if I did not engage in work, O Parth, certainly all men would follow my path. Utsideyur ime loka na kuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyamimav prajah. If I should cease to work, then all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would also be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all sentient beings. Krishna is telling, if I cease to work, then all these worlds would be put to ruination. I will be the cause of creating unwanted population. If I don't follow brahmacharya, then accepting grahast ashram. People ask why Krishna married. Because for general people, marriage is very important. Not everybody will be able to control the senses. If Krishna did not set an example by marriage, Lord Ramchandra did not set an example by marriage, then general mass would follow because they are kings. So king has to be very ideal in all respects. So marriage, people think marriage is for enjoying sex life. Rather, the purpose is totally converse. It is to regulate one's sex life. If there is no marriage, then person will do sex unlimitedly without restriction. And sex life is so horrible that the dissatisfaction always increases in the heart. Thus in West, where people have unlimited opportunity for sex, there is more depression, more chaos in life. Because as Krishna will explain, Dura Purena Kamena, this lust is never satisfied. It always burns more and more the more you satisfy. So in order to regulate, when the lust is regulated and finished, then the memory is stable. Then a person can have a peaceful mind and think about God and the purpose of life. So that is why the marriage recommendation is there, so that lust can be regulated. And then sannyas, it can be given up. So Krishna told, if I don't follow these rules and regulations of Varnashrama Dharma, then general people will start following my path and nobody would marry, and then I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. If you don't marry, don't follow Garbhadan Sanskar, purify consciousness. In purified consciousness, create progeny, the soul which will come. If the husband and wife simply for sex enjoyment they mate, and child is byproduct of such enjoyment, child would be very lusty, would be born with all lower qualities. So one has to have very purified consciousness. And at the time of conceiving the child carries the consciousness of father and mother. So these sciences, and now nobody knows it. Thus children are naturally disturbed, very lusty, greedy, angry, having very much the base qualities, and the whole world is disturbed. So Krishna is telling, Sankarasya, unwanted progeny population will be created. I would be the cause, and the whole world will be put to ruination. They will be inclined to do all nasty activities, will not agree to become God conscious very easily. But it is important to note, even though Krishna has done activities for guiding us, Krishna has shown some supernatural activities also to assert that he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, very nicely it is told in the Vedas, Nayata samachare jatu manasapi hi anishvaraha vinashyati acharan modyad yatha rudro abdijam visham. So, Modyad, foolish people, they want to imitate personalities like Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva drank poison. Can we drink poison? No. So please do not give argument that Lord Shiva, he has done some pastime, some activity of smoking, I will also smoke. No. Lord Shiva has taken the responsibility of advancing on the spiritual path the most tamasic living entities like ghosts and goblins. Thus he moves around in the graveyard and he externally maintains a tamasic appearance. So one should not also try to become tamasic. No, Lord Shiva has taken that responsibility of delivering ghosts and goblins on the path of spiritual advancement. If we also take such external get-up, we will fall in tamoguna very badly and lose the opportunity of advancement. So we should not give this argument, Shiva smokes, I will also smoke. Shiva can smoke, Shiva can drink poison also and still live very happily. But we will die immediately. Oh, Krishna danced, did Ras Leela, I will also do Ras Leela. No, Krishna did for a certain reason. You cannot imitate that. So that is why Anukaran, Anusaran, two words are used. If a person does Anusaran, that is what is recommended, following their footsteps, their instructions. And if a person does Anukaran, if he tries to act in the way Krishna has acted, Shiva has acted, they would be destroyed. So thus it is told, Modyad, foolish people, Rudro, Abdijam Visham. Rudra drank poison. If they want to imitate, they will be finished. So not to imitate, but to follow the footsteps is the required necessity for spiritual advancement. Sakta karmanya vidvanso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvans tatha saktash tikir shurloka sangraham. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, similarly the learned may also act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So thus there is no necessity of leaving house for perfecting one's spiritual life. As the materialist is acting, similarly we may also act. There is no need of changing one's position. Sthane sthita shrutigatam. We simply have to shrutigatam, keep on hearing the signs of Krishna and explain it to others. Keep on hearing the names of Krishna, explain it to others. Shrutigatam tanuvan manobhir. And surrender to Krishna wherever you are. Try to fulfill his orders, like he is ordering Arjuna to fight. Similarly, Krishna has got a plan here to deliver this knowledge to people. Simply if we do our activities for the service of Krishna, for delivering this knowledge to people, then wherever, whatever job, business, occupation we are doing, we can do that. But without attachment to the results. That is a spiritualist, perfect spiritualist. This is spiritual life. When the end is material enjoyment, that activity is called materialism. When the end is spiritual enjoyment, enjoyment of Krishna, then that is called spiritual life. As simple as that. That is Krishna's recommendation here. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, similarly learned may also act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshaye sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorant who are attached to fruitive action. They should not be encouraged to refrain from work, but to engage in work in the spirit of devotion. Prakrite kriyamanani gunay karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by nature. So this is very important verse again. It is told here, please again read this verse very carefully, verse number 27 of this third chapter. Prakrite he kriyamanani gunay karmani sarvashaha. Prakriti, nature is doing everything by the three modes of nature: guna, sattva guna, rajoguna, tamoguna. Ahankar vimudhatma, but mudha means foolish, vimudha means specially foolish. Specially foolish living entities, what do they think? Out of false ego. False ego means, as we discussed, because of this energy we think I am the body. So in this false ego, I am this body, they think I am the doer also. Karta aham, I am the doer, iti manyate, in this way they think. So this is ignorance. We are helpless, almost like puppets. In human life we have got some freedom, otherwise in all other lower species, non-human species, animals, reptiles, birds, beasts, we are just like puppets. They are completely controlled by the modes of nature. As we can see, the animals cannot change their behavior. The dog will eat in a certain way, will sleep in a certain way, will mate in a certain way, and so do other animals and plants also. But human being can change, and he should change for good. Unfortunately, we are changing for the worse. We are becoming animal-like, non-regulated in our activities. Regulation, control means human, no control means animal. So this freedom is given so that we can further move up the evolution ladder, get more sattvic bodies. If not, we are able to liberate ourselves. But unfortunately, in today's civilization, do whatever you want. This life is all in all. There is no next life. So person becomes very eager to enjoy his senses like animals, because he will die very soon and eventually becomes an animal in the next life. So thus, nature is doing everything. We are not the doers. In human form of life, we have got certain freedom. But in human form of life also, we are almost very much forced. Avashaha. We are passive actors. If we have got body of a man, if we are in ahankar, we will get attracted to women. I think, oh, I am choosing a woman. No, sir, you are being forced to choose a woman. Similarly, woman is forced to choose a man. Helplessly, mind body gets attracted. And then there is hunger. You are forced to eat, forced to work. Then nature makes you believe, because of this energy, because of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, person thinks I am the body. Now he wants name and fame in society, forced to do certain kind of activity. If you have got certain modes of nature, mix of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, we will be doing the task of a farmer, businessman, a trader. If we have got Rajoguna predominantly, we will be doing the task of administration. We will be Kshatriya, a warrior. If we have got Sattvaguna, we will be doing the task of Brahmana as per the qualities that we have. If we have got Tamasic mode of nature, then we will be doing Shudra work, or less than that. As per the qualities, helplessly we think, we behave. Psychology, physiology is under control of nature. How the body is acting, how the food is getting digested, nothing is in our control. Unfortunately, we think I am the doer. No. Nature is doing it. Is nature's plan. Just like the government decides, now we want to make a road here. So the mason and the laborer cannot tell I have made the road. Engineer cannot tell I have made the road. Government, we tell government made the road. They are acting as instruments. If engineer tells I will not make the road, laborer tells I will not work on the field, will the road not be made? Road will still be made. So the action is being done by government. And we can choose to act. Similarly, action is being done by Prakriti. We are thinking I am doing benefit to some living entities, I am causing harm to other living entities. No, we cannot do anything. If harm has to happen, benefit has to happen, that happens as per the individual karma of the living entities. We may become instrument. If money order has to go to somebody, the postman earlier, this digital transactions were not there before. So postman will carry money. So anybody can choose to act as postman and he can carry money order. But postman cannot supply money to anybody. So we should not think, I am dependent on my boss to give me money. I am dependent on somebody to give me. No, if money is in destiny, money will come by ways and means. We should just do our regulated work. That's it. By working hard, we will not be able to increase our opulence. We might be able to accumulate for some time, but that money will go away. Either by disease, theft, robbery, or our relatives will enjoy, but we will not be able to enjoy even by accumulation. If I think, these living entities are dependent on me for maintenance, no. Prakriti, nature is maintaining under supervision of Krishna. We may choose to act as instrument. If we do our duty nicely to maintain our family members, we will be rewarded. If we don't do our duty nicely, we will be punished. If a civil engineer, he is not now doing his task nicely, he will be punished. If he does nicely, he will be rewarded, promoted. But he is not the doer. In a similar fashion, we should understand, I am simply an instrument. The work will happen, harm will happen, good will happen to people. So that is why a living entity saves time from material activities. Yes, we do maintain people, we maintain our family, we maintain everybody, but for ultimate elevation to Krishna consciousness. Unnecessary, we don't take anxiety to solve the problems of life because we cannot solve it. Problems will come as per destiny. So we do regulated work, try to solve problems as far as possible, but we should understand it is happening as per the nature. We are simply an instrument. So our focus should be to elevate Krishna consciousness of my own self and that of my family members and society and nation. This is the prime motto of work for a spiritualist. Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoh guna guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So Vimudhatma, what he does, karta ham iti manyate, he thinks I am the doer, and he works very passionately thinking everything is on my head, I have to do, and takes so much of anxiety because of this. Tu, Krishna tells, but tattvavit, tattva means truth, one who is the knower of truth, he does not act in this way. So Krishna tells here, Guna guneshu vartanta iti matvana sajjate, one who is in knowledge of absolute truth does not engage himself in senses and sense gratification. Knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for sense enjoyment. Now the whole world, what is the purpose? What does our education tells us? You become successful so that you can enjoy. But this science is missing, that we are part and parcel of Krishna, just like a leaf cannot enjoy. Leaf is part and parcel of tree. Water has to go to root. Leaf will enjoy automatically. If we serve Krishna, we enjoy automatically. We are part and parcel of Krishna. So in the absence of this knowledge, people work for directly enjoying and they increase their miseries in life. So a person who is tattvavit, he does not do work for senses, sense gratification. He does work for the satisfaction of Supreme. Prakratir guna sammudha sajjante guna karmasu tana kritsna vido mandan krishna vinna vichalayet. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Now Krishna is telling here the duties of Varnashrama system, which tell you that you have some certain responsibility for certain living entities, it is inferior. If we take care of our primary responsibility of service to God, all these are automatically taken care, as we have discussed in the previous session. It is all inclusive, but one should not unsettle them, because they will not be able to understand, and unless they do these duties which are inferior, they will not be able to come to the platform of understanding their supreme duty, that is Haritoshanam. So you also act as they are acting, but tell them to act in the spirit of devotion towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with mind intent on me, and without desire for gain, and free from egoism and lethargy, fight. Now some people who are scholars of Sanskrit and who have been unfortunate, not been able to receive the knowledge in parampara, what is the actual meaning of the words and verse, they may tell, oh, why you are telling one has to sacrifice the results to Krishna? For God, yajna means sacrifice. They do not know, they have not read Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam, the direct verse Krishna is telling, I am the ultimate beneficiary. They may argue like that. So they should read this verse where Krishna directly is mentioning the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Mai sarvani karmani. Krishna is telling, Mai unto me, sarvani karmani sanyasya. All the work should be surrendered unto me. Directly, my word is used. Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. Chetasa means consciousness. Consciousness should be fixed on me. Mind also should be intent on me. Surrendering all your works unto me with mind intent on me. Adhyatma chetasaha. My. Unto me consciousness should be fixed. Nirashir. Nirashi means without any desire for gain. We do any work for personal gain. That is a karmi, materialist. Karma yogi means he acts, but he has no desire to enjoy the gain. Why? Nirmamo bhutva. Mama means something belongs to me, proprietorship. One is thoroughly convinced this body belongs to Krishna, mind belongs to Krishna, he has created machine, I belong to Krishna. So everything that I have belongs to Krishna. So he simply maintains himself. That is a Brahmana. As we discussed, if there is little more money which is not required for that day's maintenance, he will do charity immediately. Next day again he will beg for his maintenance or pick up some grains from the field or the marketplace. In this way he will just have resources for that day's maintenance because he knows Krishna is maintaining everybody. Tomorrow he will maintain me. In this way he does not accumulate, depending completely upon Krishna. So this is ideal. So even though we may not be able to follow the ideal, we can be practical. But the practical way it is told in the Vedas is a person should not enjoy more than half of his wealth. Up to 50% he can enjoy. The living standard should be not exceeding 25% of the income. 25% because we are householders, we need to have for emergency purpose, and 50% should be used in the service of Krishna. As very great industrialist of our country, Mr. Nandan Nilekani, he has pledged 50% of his wealth, and he quoted the shloka of Bhagavad Gita that please do not think that the results belong to you. The very famous shloka which we discussed in the previous chapter, chapter number 2, that you have right to do your duty, karmanyeva adhikarate ma phaleshu kadachana. But it does not entitle you to the result of activity. You have no right upon the result. He quoted this verse from Bhagavad Gita and he pledged 50%. So thus, we are very fortunate in our country and across the world now. Bhagavad Gita is very famous. People are realizing and they understand. This is the Shastric injunction. Ideal is just maintain your body and soul, but we cannot expect ideal standards from everyone. So practical is 50% at least you use in the service of God, you sacrifice. And in this way, if you follow even this, even 50% could be more, we can start sacrificing a bit. But if we are able to attain this platform of using minimum 50% of wealth for Krishna, we will be having consciousness of a sannyasi. Sannyasi is always in bliss. And the same bliss can be experienced by a householder who is running an industry or doing the regular job if he performs activities in this fashion for the satisfaction of Krishna. So thus Krishna is telling Nirmama, a person can do that only when he is Nirmama, nothing belongs to me. Just like a cashier, he accepts so much of wealth to give everything to bank. He knows Nirmama, it does not belong to me. So we have to understand, we have become very lusty and greedy like thieves, want to enjoy everything. It does not belong to us. That is why always stress and anxiety builds up in our life. So Nirashi, you work, surrendering all your works Mai unto me, and while we are doing activities for Krishna, we should be thinking of Krishna also, or chanting his name. That is the recommended way of thinking of Krishna in Kali Yuga. Satatam kirtayantu mam. Satat means always keep on chanting my name. So even though Krishna is in the background of the entire battle, Krishna is right there, charioteer sitting in front of Arjuna, but still Arjuna is being recommended by Krishna, Manmana, think of me. Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely, even though Krishna is in the background, still Krishna is telling, think of me. So we should do work for Krishna while thinking of Krishna. Another example given is that of woman who is having an extramarital affair. That is not encouraged. Example is given. Who is having an extramarital affair? She would be more careful. People tell, oh, if I follow spiritual life nicely, I'm not able to do my duties nicely. No, that is why this example is important. Acharyas have told, she is always thinking of her paramour, beloved. And at the same time, she is more cautious so that nobody should suspect that she is having an affair. Thus, she is becoming irregular in the household duties. So she does household duties even more carefully, but in her heart, she is always thinking, when will I meet my paramour? When will I go out? So in a similar fashion, person can be doing any activity, but Adhyatma Chetasa, in his heart, he is always thinking of Krishna. This Adhyatma Chetasa will develop in Kali Yuga by always chanting the names of Krishna. So we can do all activities of practice. Our tongue should be used. In 9th chapter, we will see Satatam Kirtayanto, in always chanting the names of God. If you belong to other religion, Prabhupada tells, you have different name of God, you can chant that also, but that should be name of God. And if you are doubtful, then we have standard name, Krishna. You can try this. You are scientific minded, you are very fond of experiments, try this method and see the result in your life. So this is the way, this is the purpose of Gita. Mai sarvani karmani, all activities that you do, surrender the works unto me, and mind should be intently fixed on me. You should not aspire for the gain, enjoying the gain, and understand nirmama, nothing belongs to me. Yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Now don't become lethargic, oh nothing belongs to me, everything belongs to Krishna. Okay, let me do some formality. No. Without lethargy and without feverish mentality, which people have, I want to win somehow. Without feverish mentality, without lethargy. Vigata jvaraha. Full of enthusiasm for the service of Krishna, fight. Ye me matam idam nityam anutishtanti manavaha Shraddhavanto nasuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhihi. One who executes his duties according to my injunctions and who follows this teaching faithfully without envy becomes free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So now Krishna is telling here, using a very important word, ultimately we want freedom from the reactions. Karma bandhan prahasyasi. Because of karma we are getting bodies, and bodies give us misery, material bodies. So if you act in such a way, you will be free. But sometimes, because we are all envious here, everybody who is in material world, he is envious of God, he or she is envious. So Krishna is telling, anasuyanto, who follows my injunctions without envy, because envy can come. Oh, I should give everything to you. What kind of God Krishna is? He's too much demanding. But we should understand this demand is not of a dictator, it is that of a lover. Just like in traditional families in India, wives would not work, they would take the responsibility of educating, training the children, which is very important work. Now the children are getting spoiled. And as we know, the consciousness of a person is very important, who is cooking the food. So these very important tasks they would do. And actually, working at home is very nice. And now, after this pandemic, people don't want to return to office, even in the offices of the best companies, because nobody likes to leave home. And what is the best job than spending time with the people you love, educating your children, taking care of them? So this very important task was given. Now people started neglecting this task of a homemaker. Now the women are going out and exploitation is happening, abuse is happening. Thus the Vedas tell, if woman goes out, then it is very risky how much protection you can give. This abuse is bound to happen. So women should always be protected. This is the version in the Vedas. So just like a dutiful wife, as soon as the husband gets salary, she would demand, give everything to me. And husband would lovingly give everything to her. This is the demand Krishna is having. Krishna, what is the need? Is Krishna in dearth of wealth? No. He is so much loving us. He knows unless they develop loving relationship, revive this relationship for me, they will not be satisfied. So he wants to rekindle this loving relationship. So he's asking, give it to me. And thus we will have a loving relationship. You will develop love for me. So we should not become envious. Krishna is dictator. He is telling, just think of me. No, it is love. Beloveds, do tell, think of me and sing for me, glorify me. So Krishna is just training us how we can again rekindle loving relationships. So anasuyanto, one who follows these injunctions without envy of me, then they will become free from the bondage of work. So by doing work, you become free from the bondage of work. This is called Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Ye tvetad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudhanstan vidhi nashtana chetasaha. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not practice them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and doomed to ignorance and bondage. But if somebody is envious, I don't want to regulate myself as per somebody, Krishna or a book. I will have my own life. Then Krishna is telling, he is doomed, he will suffer. Just like a small child, if he does not take the advice of the parents, it is very dangerous for him. Somebody will kidnap, he will eat anything, spoil his health. Small children, they take sometimes naphthalene balls, thinking it as sugar candy. One such incident happened in our movement also, small child died. So if the children don't listen the strict advice of their parents, their health, career, everything would be lost. So thus Krishna is telling, please do not disregard. I also request all of you with folded hands, please. Do not disregard. Yes, I am very happy that all of you are listening these instructions, but we have to practically apply the instructions in our life also. For this, personal guidance is required. Thus we could have done our regular jobs and served Krishna. Why we are there? We have renounced our regular duties and occupation because some people are required who can give this knowledge to people, tell them how to practically apply these instructions. So please take advantage. So take advantage of such devotees who have renounced, dedicated their life so that they can explain people, guide people how to practically apply these instructions. So please, if there is any difficulty, you think it is impractical, it is because of lack of knowledge. Everything is practical. In a step-by-step manner, gradually, we can follow all these instructions perfectly, and we can be, all of us can be, in our own situation, perfectly self-realized souls. So please try to come in association of devotees and in their guidance, apply personally. And Krishna is warning here, like a child, those who do not follow, they will be lost. They are doomed to bondage. Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Every man, I'll repeat, even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows his nature. What can repression accomplish? So Krishna is warning Arjuna, now you want to leave fight, repression will not accomplish anything unless the heart is cleansed. So use your tendencies in my service. Indriyasyendriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavasthitau tayorna vasham agachet tau hi asya paripanthino. Attraction and repulsion for sense objects are felt by embodied beings, but one should not fall under the control of senses and sense objects because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Just like sometimes very attractive offers come, click on this link, you have a sudden reward waiting for you. We don't fall for that. Some people call us, they want the details of our credit cards, debit cards, and give us attractive options. We might get attracted, but we don't click on such malicious links. We don't respond to such calls. In a similar fashion, in this material world, unfortunately, when we see any sense object, we feel attraction. That is nature of this body. Something will be attractive, something would be repulsive. And our life's motto is to chase those things which are attractive and avoid those things which are repulsive. But Krishna is telling no. You should simply know what God desires me to do and then just engage myself in the service of God as per the direction of spiritual master and not fall for the stumbling blocks of sense objects. They are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. try to tolerate. Just like a married man or woman can get attracted to somebody beyond their life partners, but they don't go and marry them. They understand it is not right. We may find something very expensive which does not belong to us, but we don't start enjoying that. We wait for our wealth to grow. Because if I enjoy that, I become a thief. So in a similar fashion, many things would be attractive, Krishna is telling, but don't fall for that. One should strictly follow my injunctions and tolerate the attraction and repulsion of the sense objects. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharma swanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than another's duties. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties. I'll repeat. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than another's duties. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Arjuna wanted to take the path of Brahmanas even though he was a Kshatriya. Brahmana is told to follow non-violence always, but Kshatriya no. Even though while fighting he can be destroyed, one should not resist from doing his duty. Because death anyway has to happen. If we do our duty nicely now, we are getting promotion, at least if not liberation in the next life, because we are eternal. So paradharm bhayavaha. Do not do this thing, please. If a small child carries calculator, he will not learn basic calculation, would be lost. He should not imitate the advanced students who calculate using scientific calculators in their examinations. No, one should not imitate their duties. At the same time, advanced students should not imitate lower children. Oh, let me also not carry calculator. Then he also will not be able to learn. At his level, it is required. So thus, everybody should carry their own prescribed duties, even though one may be destroyed doing their duties. Arjuna uvacha atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladivaniyo. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? Arjuna is asking very important question now. Krishna has told, if you do not do yajna, you are sinful. If you do not eat food which is offered to me, which is offered in the sacrifice, then again you are committing agham papam, gross sinful activity. So Krishna is described in so many ways. One who does not do his duty, he is sinful. Now Arjuna is telling, Krishna, I understood that there are all these activities which are sinful, but there is something which forces us to do sinful acts. What is that? Baladiva niyojita. Something engages us in these activities even though I am not willing to do sins. I want to sacrifice for Krishna, but I cannot do that. I want to control my senses. I don't want to fall for sense objects, attraction, repulsion, but helplessly I do that. What is the reason for this? Arjuna scientifically now wants to understand the design of this nature. What is that energy which is forcing us, even though I am unwilling to commit sins? Now Krishna will help. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Kamesha Krodhesha Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhyenam Miha Vairinam. The blessed Lord said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of the contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring, sinful enemy of this world. Dhumena vriyate vahanir Yatha darsho malena cha yatholbena vrito garbhas tatha tene damavritam. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, similarly the living entity is covered by different degrees of this lust. Avritam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus, a man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. A person is harmed and sometimes killed by the enemy. So, there is no harm by anything external to us. All the harm is because of this enemy which is called lust, which is sitting within us. What is this lust? Krishna tells, Kamesha Krodesha Rajaguna Samudbhavaha. When a living entity becomes forgetful of God, comes in contact with the material nature, then the tendency of loving God gets transformed into lust. Just like the milk is transformed into curds. So now we think, this lust is very nice. Let me satisfy my lust. And this is the biggest mistake. Why mistake? Because Krishna is telling here, Dushpurena analena cha. Dushpurena means it is never satisfied. As we discussed previously, it is like itching sensation of an eczema patient who is having wet sores on his body. If you try to scratch it, the sore worsens. Itching increases and ultimately it starts bleeding. In a similar fashion, the lust is never satisfied. Have we not experienced? And lust does not mean only sex pleasure. That is a grossest manifestation of lust. Lust means, this also we have discussed, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Bari Kam. Any tendency to enjoy one's senses directly independent of Krishna's pleasure, that is called lust. Even sexual pleasure is not lust if one is using sex life for producing Krishna conscious children. That also Krishna will mention further. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamo asmi bhartarshava. Krishna is not against sex life. Otherwise, why there is grahast ashram? But it should be ashram. All the activities are for spiritual advancement. When sex life is done for spiritual advancement, right, spiritual soul is brought into this world, then such sex life Krishna does, I am that sex life. So sex life is authorized, but if it is for spiritual advancement, a spiritual child is brought into this world. By chanting the mantras, purification of consciousness, it should be executed in proper time. Many regulations are there. But if a person tries to enjoy sex pleasure just for personal gratification, then that is called lust. If a person enjoys any of the senses for one's own enjoyment, then that is called lust. Atmendriya Priti Vancha. Even desire for name and fame, prestige in society, that is also a subtle form of lust. Any kind of tendency of independent enjoyment is lust. And we think, oh, if I satisfy the demands of tongue, skin, genitals, or mind, name, fame, I will be satisfied. But have we not experienced we are never satisfied? We want more sex, sex with different partners, with different genders, with different species also. It is never satisfied. You eat, you want to eat more, different varieties of food, different locations, never satisfied. Sleep, you want to sleep more and more, never satisfied. You want to watch videos, want to watch more and more, never satisfied. So it is like fire. Analena. Anala means fire. It burns like fire. The more you supply fuel, the more it burns. So thus a person is completely frustrated and perplexed. That is why the World Health Organization is ranking United States of America as one of the most depressed nations of the world for last 3-4 years. Why? They have so much GDP, so many nice technological advancement, most advanced defense mechanisms, nice warships, nice commandos, everything. And even unemployed person is having so much of money, nice education, state education, nice healthcare, everything is there. But why depression? And we have seen in our life also, lust never satisfies. Now you have 10 million rupees, you want 100 million. And why the most intelligent people are not able to understand? Because Krishna tells, Indriyani manobuddhir asyadhisthanamuchyate etair vimohyatyesha jnanam avritya dehinam. The senses, the mind and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust, which veils the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Why we are not able to understand? Because so as we analyze the situation, the strategic position of enemy before launching an attack, it is important to know where the enemy is sitting. So before we attempt to defeat lust, we need to know where the lust sits. So Krishna tells here to identify the enemy's location. And the enemy is sitting in senses, mind and intelligence also. So we are helpless. Because the lust is sitting on the intelligence, a person is not able to understand this simple concept. Thus Krishna has used the word here, Jnanam avritya dehinam. Jnanam avritya means cover. It covers the knowledge, veils the knowledge. Jnana Vijnana Nashanam it is called. It destroys Jnana and Vijnana, as Krishna mentions in the next shloka. Tasmatvam indriyanyadav niyamye bharatarshava papmanam prajahihyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So it is called Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. Jnana means knowledge of soul, different from the body. It is Nashanam. So if we engage in lusty activities, too much sex pleasure or any kind of independent pleasure of the senses, then we are bound to believe that I am this body. Jnana Nashanam. And Vijnana means specific knowledge of the soul. I am not the body is one level. Jnana, specific knowledge, means if I am not the body, then who am I? I am not the child of my parents, then who are my parents? If I am not belonging to this nation, to which country I belong? What is my real identity? So what is the real identity of the soul within this body? This external identity is false. We need to know what is my relationship with God, how to engage in that relationship. This is called Vijnana, specific knowledge of the soul. So Jnana and Vijnana are lost. Jnana Vijnana Nashanam. How much ever we try to speculate, use our intelligence, we will not be able to understand this basic spiritual concept that I am not the body if we engage in lusty activities. Thus Krishna is telling, in the beginning itself, Tasmat Indriyani Adav, Chanakya Pandit says, fire, disease and enemy should be destroyed in the beginning itself. When they build up later, you cannot, they will kill you. So Krishna is telling how to control lust. Many people ask, in the beginning only training should be given. That is why Brahmachari, Gurukule Vasandanto Guror Hitam. Brahmachari should Danta, he should learn how to control the senses very nicely and work only for the satisfaction of Guru. His senses should be so regulated that, so this training, what we are discussing here, this complete training was given in the Gurukul. You could be the son of king, but you do work as a menial servant. And you go out to beg alms, and whatever you have raised, you should not think it belongs to you. You offer everything to Guru. Guror Hitam. You could have got many gold coins also, give it to Guru. Guror Hitam. And you are so much dependent upon Guru. If Guru does not call you for lunch, you are supposed to skip the meal. So nothing belongs to me, everything belongs to spiritual master. Nirmama, this training was given. So in the beginning, it is told in Bhagavatam also, Kaumar acharit pragyo dharman bhagavataniha. From 5 years of age, this knowledge should be given. Otherwise, later it is difficult to control. So brahmachari learns this sense control. So it is very easy. They are very easily able to maintain nice grahastha, and many times they directly move to sannyas because senses are so perfectly controlled. They are trained to see every woman as mother, and thus they are very easily able to control, destroy this enemy for lust in the very beginning itself. However, we should not lose hope that what to do now. Krishna consciousness is so powerful, this Buddhi Yoga what Krishna is recommending, that even a late beginner can make one's life perfect by strictly following the rules and regulations under the guidance of spiritual master. So it does not matter, we could be late, but if we are sincere and serious, then we also can, every layman can also become a lover of God. But it is important to understand the lust is sitting on the intelligence, lust is sitting on the mind, lust is sitting on the senses. So our mind and intelligence will misguide us. That is why I know I did this lusty activity previously, how much I suffered. Other people, they do this lusty activity, they are put to jail, and I will also lose my life or I'll be sentenced, but still a person does lusty activity because intelligence gets covered. Why we are not able to understand the simple logic that lust is like fire, it never is satisfied, never satiated. So if I try to satisfy the lust, it will always keep on increasing. The demands of personal enjoyment always keep on increasing. So what we need to do is transform it back into love of God. So it is very difficult once love of God transforms into lust, but by this process of Buddhi Yoga, Krishna consciousness, it can be transformed back, it is possible. But one has to follow rules, regulations very strictly, not depend upon one's mind and senses, depend upon Krishna's mind, Krishna's intelligence, intelligence of the Guru and the sages. Then our intelligence will be purified and we will be able to understand all these logics very nicely, understand I am not the body, I am soul, understand what is my actual constitutional position. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhev paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul, he is even higher than the intelligence. Evam buddhev param buddhva stanstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So Krishna has explained the internal hierarchy. Indriyani paranyahur, senses are superior to dull matter, you control matter using senses. Higher than senses is manaha, mind, with mind you control senses. Manasastu para buddhir, higher than mental energies, intelligence, with intelligence you control the senses. And higher than intelligence is mind, you choose, I should apply my intelligence in understanding Bhagavad Gita. You choose, I want to apply my intelligence in solving this puzzle. You are the controller of intelligence. So thus Krishna is telling, because you are the supreme, by spiritual strength you should try to control this lust, try to control your senses. By educating yourself in knowledge of spiritualizing the higher self, gaining spiritual strength, you should control your lower selves. Now, even though we may understand my senses are not in my control, we want to control senses on the level of senses. We want to control mind on the level of mind. By mental practices, we want to control. It is not possible, very difficult. You want to control the mechanical motion of wheel by holding the wheel. That is very foolish way of stopping the vehicle. By higher energy, you can control the lower energy. Turn off the ignition and then the wheel will stop, fan will stop. So this is the better way and the actual way, recommended way of controlling the senses. One has to understand that the spirit sits on the topmost chair of this internal hierarchy. Now the spirit is very weak, so we have to empower the spirit. And by spiritual strength, we'll be able to control the intelligence. Intelligence is next door enemy of spirit. So intelligence becomes purified when we have spiritual strength. With pure intelligence, one should control the mind, and with controlled mind, one should control the senses. In this way, one can destroy the enemy of lust, remove them from mind, senses, and intelligence. So Krishna has concluded this very important chapter, Karma Yoga, by spotting this enemy. All the problems of this life are only because of this enemy called lust, tendency of sense enjoyment independent of Krishna. And gross form of it is the sex pleasure. So entire Varnashrama system takes a person eventually from Shudra to Brahmana to ultimately Sannyas, so that this tendency is controlled. So we should not think, I will suffer in life if I don't enjoy. No, anyway we are not enjoying. This so-called happiness which we have by satisfying our lust, this very happiness is actually the enemy of all of us. Just like the happiness which a moth insect derives by seeing the flame, fire, that very happiness becomes the cause of death of the moth. It jumps into fire, loses its life. Similarly, we are having all the problems only because of this so-called flickering happiness which anyway never satisfies us. The happiness that we want is love of God. For this, very scientifically, professionally, we follow spiritual life under the guidance of a pure devotee, and then once the lust is transformed into love of God, then we will understand why I was hankering for this thing always. So the conclusion of this chapter is, Arjuna is being recommended, please do not leave work because artificially you become sannyasi. That is not recommended. In mind, the thoughts will always come. And even if you think you are Atmarati, you are completely self-satisfied, still for the sake of guiding common masses, because you are king, you should work. But how you should work? Without getting attached to the results of activity. And Mai Karmani Sarmani, all the work should be surrendered unto me. The result should be surrendered unto me. And mind should be intent on me, you should be thinking of me always. In this way you please fight. And then when Arjuna tells Krishna, I may not be able to follow the instructions because something forces me to do wrong activities, that is called lust. So Krishna tells Arjuna, yes, control your senses in the very beginning. And then by spiritual strength, how do we get spiritual strength? It is very simple. Yatha taror mool nishechanena, leaf and root. Always remember this Shastric example. Put water on the root, leaf becomes nourished. So if we serve Krishna, we get nourishment, we become strong. And then we'll be able to control lust. And all the problems of life are thus solved. So with this, we finish the third chapter called Karma Yoga. Now we will begin another very wonderful chapter, fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. Till then, please keep on contemplating and try to apply practically these instructions in your life. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.